Former nurse Rajwinder Singh sentenced to life behind bars for the murder of Queensland woman Toyah Cordongley. Residents in the Dolphin Sands area in Tasmania assess the devastation and loss as another emergency bushfire flares in the state's north. And properties under threat from bushfire burning on the New South Wales Central Tablelands at emergency level. And rates on hold, with the RBA Governor offering no cause for optimism of a cut anytime soon.
I don't think there are interest rate cuts in the horizon for the foreseeable future.
Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Joe O'Brien. The man who killed Toyah Cordongley has been sentenced to life behind bars with a non-parole period of 25 years. The 24-year-old was attacked while walking her dog on a remote beach in far north Queensland in 2018. Here's reporter Conor Byrne in Cairns.
In Cairns Supreme Court, Justice Lincoln Crowley, I'll cut right to the chase, but he sentenced him to life in prison, but a non-parole period of 25 years, and that is 5 years more than the recommended mandatory amount under Queensland law. And he says this was because of the crime that was committed and the fact that people want to feel safe in this community and what happened and the fact that it was dragged through court for so long. And in sentencing, he really didn't hold back. He started with Singh's demeanour on the day in question. Earlier that day, he was in Cairns Central Shopping Centre, and the CCTV footage showed him wandering around having lunch, people watching, as Justice Lincoln Crowley says. But he says your people watching must have had some ulterior purpose, even as yet unformed and unrealised. The judge said then that Singh drove to Wangetti Beach, which is 34 kilometres northwest of Cairns, and said your people-watching activities took a turn at this point. A nefarious and obnoxious character came out. He says Miss Cordongley's killing was opportunistic and premeditated. You deliberately went there to select a person to kill. It's quite possible that she discovered you there, engaged in some type of disgraceful, embarrassing activity at a sufficient spot where your true self can emerge uninhibited with your deeper, darker urges and desires. The obvious explanation that comes to mind is that Miss Cordongley caught you when you approached her engaged in some kind of sexual or depraved act. You took her phone after she may have recorded you or sought to call the authorities after catching you. Now, Miss Cordongley's phone was central to this case because Mr. Singh carried Miss Cordongley's phone, drove back to Cairns with the phone in his car and was caught on the traffic cameras and the mobile phone towers, her phone moving in tandem with his car down the Captain Cook Highway and around to the northern Cairns suburb of Caravonica, where he threw the phone in the Barron River at Lake Placid. So Justice Crowley called it a violent, horrific attack, and that Miss Cordongley was probably alive when her throat was cut after evidence of sand in her lungs. This was a shocking and sickening episode of violence, a senseless killing of an innocent young woman who was a total stranger to you and posed no threat to you. He agreed with the Crown's evidence, saying that he buried Miss Cordongley and destroyed her belongings. Not only the phone in the river, but her clothes she was wearing at the time were never found, apart from her baseball cap, which was found on the tide line the next morning on the beach. Mr. Singh was heard to have driven past bodies of water in a meandering fashion on his way back to Innisfail, getting home after his family had gone to sleep. Your conduct shows some insight into the selfish and heartless individual you truly are. He said his hiding delayed and extended the anguish of Miss Cordongley's family. He said the lies told in the secret watch house recording, now this is after he was extradited from India back to Cairns after spending 4 years there, were told because he had doubtless had already grasped the nature of the evidence against him. And then Justice Crowley went on to say Miss Cordongley was a vibrant, outgoing, beautiful person, a young woman with her whole life ahead of her, a person who was loved and cherished by her family and friends. You ended her life. Your actions have caused irreparable harm, mental anguish, emotional, psychological wounds that her family will carry for life. Justice Crowley said the link between Mr. Singh's car and Miss Cordongley's phone was the result of diligent and painstaking investigation by the police. But as I mentioned, he had hidden in India for 4 years. But Justice Crowley really opened up on Singh, especially when it came to his flight to India.
You took flight like a gutless coward. lying to your friends, your family and your work about the reasons for your hasty departure. You're left without even saying a proper goodbye to your own wife, parents or children, demonstrating that your only concern was to save your own skin.
And Conor, Miss Cordongley's family have read victim impact statements. What did they have to say?
Yeah, first in the witness box was Vanessa Gardner, who is Toyah Cordongley's mother, and she spoke on behalf of her and her husband Darren Gardner, who is Miss Cordongley's stepfather. And she said, but first I'll go into what Justice Crowley said to Mr. Singh. You had your head down, Mr. Singh, during the victim impact statements, but I hope you listened to the depth of their pain. And Mr. Singh kept his head down the entire time. So Miss Gardner said her daughter was stolen from their family, missing significant family occasions, including Miss Cordongley's sister Lena's graduation and her brother Jack's wedding. She said the shine had been taken and Toyah's absence was an elephant in the room at all family gatherings. She said the murder was in the most unimaginable and horrendous way, and the family structure was torn to pieces by this overwhelming and traumatic event, but it eventually made the family stronger. She said she was an innocent young woman that was full of love and everything in her life, especially for her family and friends, and her love of animals, especially her dogs. Miss Cordongley's father, Troy, then took the witness box and listed to the court the various traumas, anxieties and depressions that haunted him since he found Toyah's body on Wangetti Beach. This is his only daughter, and he lamented the fact that he will now never have grandchildren because Toyah is now dead. He told the court that he struggles to maintain relationships, he's unable to hold down jobs, saying everything reminds me of her and the pain is unbearable. Troy stared down Rajwinder Singh in the dock as he walked back to his seat. He didn't take his gaze off him, but Rajwinder Singh kept his eyes lowered the whole time during the entire sentencing today. Miss Cordongley's boyfriend at the time, Marco Heidenreich, did not submit a victim impact statement, and he was not in the court, nor has he been in the court since he gave evidence. But Crown Prosecutor Nathan Crane said Mr. Heidenreich had over 2 trials effectively been accused of murder and sexual misconduct, saying it was an impactful circumstance for him to be in while grieving his partner's death. Mr. Crane told the court there was no foundation for Mr. Heidenreich's involvement in her death. And this echoes what Vanessa Gardner said outside the court yesterday, that she thanked Marco for his evidence, but said she bears no ill towards him, nor towards Sukhdeep Kaur, who is Rajwinder Singh's wife, Joe.
Conor Byrne reporting there from Cairns in far north Queensland.